we thank you for the mighty name of Jesus. At that name, every knee shall bow, and every tongue shall confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father.
Yesu ninakupenda we.
Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Radiant Marriage. I'm your host, Senior Bishop Dr. Julius Kwedhi. I'm coming to you from Moscow, here in Russia. So in this episode, we are going to continue from where we left off last time, when we were talking about the purpose and foundation of marriage. And we ended the previous episode with the objective for our next lesson, which is today, on the bad reasons or the bad foundations of marriage, right? The bad foundations of marriage. In other words, the foundation that will guarantee a failed marriage, all right? That will guarantee a failed marriage. The kind of foundation that if you build your marriage on, frankly, then you are looking at a married life that will not be successful. And of course, that is another question. What is a successful marriage? What is a successful marriage? How can I have a successful marriage? And the one thing that I really want to do in this series of teachings is to go through the entire marriage course, to go through the entire marriage course and look at the various marriage topics, from the introduction, the purpose and foundation of marriage that we have looked at so far, looking at expectations, looking at the topic of love, looking at unconditional love and the likes, and looking at things such as communication, conflict resolution, the topic of intimacy, finances, parenting, and so many. And I'm really hoping that we could go into details, the finer details of marriage counseling, so that hopefully this series of teachings will be helpful for the couple who are preparing for marriage, will be helpful for young individuals who are preparing to get married, who are seriously considering marriage. Will be hopefully that this sort of series will be used as a sort of church curriculum for married people, for singles, for those that are in courtship. Yes, indeed, that even individuals who are married and would like to strengthen their marriage, that they could be able to use this series of teachings. And I should mention that the information that I'm using in this series of teachings is the very same kind of information that I employ in the premarital counseling sessions that I hold, as well as in the marriage counseling sessions that I conduct with various individuals. Yes, indeed. And so today I would like us to look at the topic of foundations, the wrong foundation. And if I do a flashback on our previous session, we looked at the question of storms in life. Not just storms, but yes, the foundation, the type of foundation we are building. We read the parable of the foolish and the wise builder. We also looked at Proverbs chapter 10 verse 25 that says that when the storm comes, the righteous are firm, or they have a firm foundation. Or after the storm has swept by, the wicked are gone, but the righteous have an everlasting foundation. So we looked at that scripture, and to really tell you that the importance of building on a strong foundation, to really bring out the message of the necessity of building on a strong and sure foundation, because without a strong foundation for marriage, without a strong purpose for marriage, then you can confidently say that that marriage is headed for disaster. I mean, it shouldn't be rocket science to say such things, because everything else in our lives hangs on these two things. You know, the businessman who is thinking of starting that shipping company, starting of that car dealership, or starting that whatever industry, be it in tech or in finance and business, the most important question is the building blocks that you are laying down as foundation for your business. Why it should not come as a surprise, therefore, that marriage too requires that the said individuals, that the man and woman who are planning to get married, should seriously consider the question of building on the right foundation, and then having the right purpose. You know, when you talk about business, they mention questions such as, what problem are you trying to solve, right? You want to come up with a new camera to sell to people, but what problem are you solving? You want to build a new car, what problem are you solving? Because if you're not solving a problem, then you are building a failed business, right? It's a no-brainer. The same for marriage. The same for marriage. That if you don't have a purpose for your marriage, why are you getting married? Why do you want to get married to this man? Why do you want to get married to this woman? Then really, you are a disaster waiting to happen, right? If you are getting married for the wrong reasons, and which is why we now are talking about the wrong foundations on which to build your marriage. And as I mentioned that, I would also like to mention the fact that that the foundation of your marriage determines how far you will go. We know very well that the architects and the civil engineers, they know very well, this is common practice, that if they want to build a strong bridge, a strong multi-tower building, so to say, a multi-story building, you know, a skyscraper, they have to build a strong foundation. And so it is that strong foundation that will then determine how high that building can tower. And if somebody had built a building in 1950s and now in 2024 they want to take that building from being a one-story building to a five-story building, the first question is always, how is your foundation? What kind of foundation have you built that building on? And will that foundation be able to sustain, to support the sort of building that you want to build with the materials that you are intending to use? So it is really a no-brainer, and it is common practice in everyday life for us to consider the question of the foundation. The foundation. And why are we talking the foundation? We are talking about the foundation because ahead is trouble. Yeah? You know, you cannot be mindless when you are preparing for marriage. You cannot afford to be careless when you are preparing for marriage. You cannot afford to leave your marriage preparations, your married life to chance. You cannot afford to leave your marriage, your future in marriage to chance. As in to say that, well, I'm just going to get married and we will see what happens. Or, you know, I don't know this guy doesn't know me, we just met a few years ago, we just met a few days ago, we just met a few hours ago, but I want to get married to this guy, I want to get married to this woman in the next 5 days, in the next 6 months, and yet your foundation is non-existent. Or it is a flimsy foundation, it is a shallow foundation, it is a foundation on sand. What kind of outcome then do you think will be the result of this, so to say, what type of outcome then of marriage? What type of marriage do you expect when you're building on such a foundation? So there is trouble ahead. There are problems ahead. You know, we have already read from the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 7 verse 28, I think, that Yes, we have read from 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 28, which says that ahead is problems. It says, for those who want to get married, they will have many troubles. They will have many problems in this life. So that is a given. But it is a pity. It is a pity that a lot of us are going into marriage and we are totally ignoring this advice from the Bible. That for those who want to get married, they will face many troubles in this life. So these troubles, I call them storms. And so there are storms ahead. There are storms ahead. What kind of pilot takes off from an airport and totally ignores the storms that are on his flight path? What kind of pilot does that? You will call that kind of pilot a careless pilot. That kind of pilot, if he does such a thing, he will surely be sued and even fired from the company he's working for. You cannot afford to be careless. Take off from an airport and you know that along the path of your flight there are at least 3 storms or 4 storms that are waiting for you. In fact, what they do in aviation is such that if there is a strong storm ahead, then they will either, one, deviate, change the flight route, or they will delay the flight. They will delay the flight. What is the rush? Why unnecessarily risk the life of the company, the reputation of the company, and the life of the people that you are carrying? The same goes for marriage. There are storms ahead. And I tell you, they are strong storms. We already read the words of Jesus when he said, the winds came, the storms, he says, the storm came, the winds blew, and the waters rose. And it beat against that house. So the storm is waiting for you. I don't care who you are, millionaire, billionaire, pastor, bishop, just some spiritual guy, whoever you are, or you say, I don't want troubles in life, I don't want problems with anybody, I just want to get married and have a happy life. My friend, if you are going to ignore the warning sign that the Bible has given that there are storms ahead, then you are a disaster waiting to happen. So it is absolutely necessary to build a strong foundation and have the right purpose for your marriage, because the storms ahead are waiting for you. And they are waiting to test what kind of foundation have you built that marriage on. The storms are waiting to test you, to probe you, to check you, to shake you, and wake you up from your slumber and to find out, have you built that marriage on the right foundation? Have you built that marriage fixed on the right purpose? Because after all, that is all that will matter when you are in marriage. That is all that will matter. And so what are some of those bad foundations on which to build your marriage? All right? I know I've spent now much of this time talking about the necessity of building the marriage on the right foundation, but hopefully in the next session then we'll get deeper into the question of bad foundations. But in the next 5 minutes or so that we have left, we are now going to look at the bad foundations for getting married. You could say the bad reasons of why people get married. And last time I've alluded to this, somebody would get married for the reasons, for example, cultural reasons. That I'm 27 years old, and in our culture, when a man is 27 years old, he must get married. And therefore, I gotta get married, right? We have people that do that. We have other bad reasons for getting married. You have a 9-year-old girl being married off to a 30-year-old man. We call them arranged marriages. The girl, come on man, this is a 9-year-old girl being married off to a 30-year-old man who's probably a pedophile, right? And so you have a lot of things, political marriage for political reasons. President wants to get married because there is political pressure that as a president you cannot be a single man. You cannot be a single man and lead a country as a single president, or a potential presidential candidate. They are telling him that you cannot become president unless you are married, and therefore the party goes now on this search to find the kind of woman that this man should get married to for political reasons, for political expediency, meaning to find the woman from the right tribe, the woman from the right financial background to get married to this man. And then you can have other reasons, people getting married because they don't want to be lonely, people getting married simply because they want to have a partner in their lives, people getting married because they want to improve their financial status, wanting to get married simply so that they can have children and have that euphoria of having children, or just so that they never have to die being childless. You find people wanting to get married because they don't want to be incomplete in their lives, so they think that if I get married to whomever it is that I find in my life journey, then at least I'm going to have somebody to complete me. I'm not saying these are good reasons. I'm saying these are bad reasons for why people get married. You can have people wanting to get married for emotional reasons, so that they can have affection, so that they can have their emotional fulfillment in terms of affection, in terms of sexual, in terms of sex and attraction. You find people getting married so that they can have a house cook, or so that they can have a house keeper. It can be either way. A woman getting married to a man who can take care of the house, or a man who gets married to a woman just so that she can take care of his house. And you can find people who want to get married for things that we call, things such as visa. Somebody wants to get married so that they can get a visa of a particular nation. People wanting to get married so they can become citizens of a particular country. People wanting to get married because of the outward beauty of their potential bride. People want to get married because of talent and skills that a particular individual has. You also find people that want to get married because they think that they have things in common. And I can tell you that these reasons do not hold water, do not hold up. When the time of testing comes, when the time of the storm arrives, none of these reasons can save a marriage from disaster. Now, look at this. You get married to a woman who's Miss Universe for the sake of her beauty and popularity. Now, what will you do? For whatever reason, if this woman gets acid thrown into her face and she gets her face disfigured, and her face gets disfigured, what are you now going to do? What will you do if the man that you have married for his money suddenly becomes poor, with no prospect of recovering back to his initial financial status when at the point of your marriage? You see what I'm trying to say here? That when the storm comes, the storm could, the storms are varied, and they can be, and they are not guaranteed of what they would be. Storm could be losing a leg, could be losing an eye, could be, being sickly. Storms could be, losing children, losing a job. Storms could be, facing the worst financial scandal in your marriage, or whatever scandal in your marriage. Storms are varied and various, and they are not guaranteed, and there are many. When you have just recovered from one issue, another issue comes up. When you have recovered from another issue comes up, and they will come. That is the issue. That's why we are talking about making sure that you build on the right foundation, because if you are built on the right foundation, my friend, as Proverbs chapter 10 verse 25 says, the righteous have a firm foundation, that when the storm comes, if you are built on the right foundation, when the storm comes, the wicked will be gone. Those who have built on the wrong foundation will be gone. They will have been destroyed. They will have been brought down. But for you, you will remain standing. You will stand tall. That after the storm has died down, whereas all the other buildings have fallen down, yours will be standing towering high. in the midst of the flood, towering high in the midst of the ruin and chaos that is the destruction that you see every day on the face of this earth. So thank you so much for tuning in into this session. So this was the first part of me looking at the bad foundations of why people get married, the bad foundations on which people build their marriages, and we are going to look a little bit more into this in our next session. So thank you so much. We'll see you in the next session. Don't forget to check us out on Telegram, and do not forget to subscribe to this channel, and also hopefully share these series of teachings with everybody that you know that you think this will benefit. So I am your host, Julius Kwedhi, and we'll see you again in the next session.